All right, welcome to Semper Fi. I'm your host, Staff Sergeant Bonstein, or as I was commonly referred to as Staff Sergeant B. We'll get to my guest in a minute. First, we'll go over our usual what happened at this date in U.S. military history. In the Marines in 1868, Marines landed at Yokosuka, Japan to protect foreign nationals. And in the Army in 1945 on Luzon, the advanced units of the U.S. 1st Cavalry Division reached the outskirts of Manila from the north, while units of the 11th Airborne Division approached from the south. And in the Air Force in 1945, B-24 and B-29 bombers raided Iwo Jima, preparing for the landing later in that month. They dropped a daily average of 450 tons of bombs over the course of 15 days. A total of 6,800 tons were dropped. And in the Navy, in 1959, the USS Enterprise was the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier made, the Newport News in Virginia. Without further ado, my next guest was a former Marine, Jonathan Marcus. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, we'll start with the basics. Where'd you go to boot camp?
Went to boot camp at MCRD San Diego.
And where are you originally from?
I'm from Sacramento, California.
Yeah, so you were right in your back door.
Yes, sir.
What year did you go in?
I went in 2007.
All right. What platoon were you in?
3214, India Company.
So I'm from 3rd. I was 3rd Battalion, too. H Company. What was your platoon number? 30?
3214.
I was 3331. Okay. How'd you like receiving barracks the very first day you got off the bus? That's where I worked at.
I loved it. I was kind of dumbfounded for a minute. It was kind of chaotic, as you know. Keep you up for a couple of days. You're just herdled around like cattle.
They still bring the buses in at night?
Buses in at night, heads between your knees. Don't know where you're going.
They now make you put your head between your knees?
Yep.
They don't have you looking up and out the windows?
Nope. They put your head between your knees to try and disorient you a little bit. And then they ask you how many turns and how long were we traveling straight and that kind of stuff. And if you get it right, you're the last one to get your hair cut.
Wow. What an incentive. It's coming off either way.
Yep.
I never realized they made you put your head between your knees now. Wow, that's all right.
I actually bicked my hair right before I went in.
Did it?
And they still made me sit in the chair.
Yep, they do that.
Still got to pay the $250.
Yeah, because your hair will start growing back before everybody else's, and you're out of the sequence. So, yeah, we had a lot of guys that, when I worked at receiving barracks, would come in with their head shaved and get them in the chair and say, you got to be in sync with everybody else. Your hair starts growing faster than theirs. It's not going to work. So, jeez.
We still got to stand on the yellow footprints, take the oath.
Yeah.
All that. I mean, it's very memorable. I mean, that part of my life really stands out to me.
Yeah, receiving barracks say the fear of the unknown.
Yep.
Is what they do to you. I remember going off the bus in Paris Island. We got to drive in, but back then in '77 you were allowed to look out the window, but we still came in at 2:30 in the morning or something like that. So yeah, and it's a lasting impression.
Yeah, that it is. It's something that will definitely stay with you for the rest of your life.
I don't care how far back you'll remember. That bus ride's always the first. So then, how long were you on standby before you got picked up with your platoons?
I got picked up on Black Friday, right after the run and the PFT.
Now, what's Black Friday?
Black Friday is where we get to do our mile-and-a-half run in under 13:30, if I remember the time correctly. We had to do our sit-ups and our 3 pull-ups simultaneously with very small breaks in between. And I was 25, if I remember correctly. 26, excuse me. I was 26 years old.
Really?
Yep. Failed at the pull-ups because you got to break your chin, and I couldn't get my chin over the bar, but I did 20 pull-ups, but they didn't count any of them. So then we went to the mile-and-a-half run. It was kind of funny watching everybody line up to take off because we had sprinters and everybody else, and they just took off like a bat out of hell. And I was the one that, I'm not first-generation Marine, so my uncle kind of told me what to expect.
Pace yourself.
Pace yourself. It's a mile and a half. It's time to take your time. So that's what I did, and then had drill instructors running with us and corpsmen and everything, making sure everybody's okay. When I heard the call come out that there was 10 minutes left, I had just about a half a mile left to run. And I was just, strolling right along. And I just opened my stride up and finished it in 11 minutes flat.
How many of the road runners you wound up passing?
Quite a few. I had a couple of guys that went down with cramps in their legs and their stomach and everything like that. And they were unable to finish PFT, so they got dropped into, we called them Fat Man Barracks, but I don't remember what they're actually called.
I can't remember the name either. It's,
where they got to stay until they can pass the PFT.
Jeez. So your pull-ups, you couldn't do any more dipping. Couldn't kip above the bar when you did pull-ups. It was straight up, straight down.
And straight from a dead hang, pull yourself
straight
up.
Because I know a lot of us used to do the dip where you'd arc your body and whip yourself up over the bar.
Yep. Nope. Not anymore. You can't do that no more. Jeez. And it's just straight dead hang, and you got to pull yourself up. And I have such a large torso that my arms were getting stuck on my wings.
Really?
Because you have to keep your arms like this.
But then you still have the option whether this way or this way.
Yep.
Pull up
You can do this way or this way.
Even putting your hands this way didn't help?
Nope.
Wow.
So I was unable to do the pull-ups, but I still managed to get picked up by India Company. I started off with 3209. There wasn't enough guys to make a full platoon, so they combined 2 platoons and made 3214.
Oh, really? What time of the year did you go to boot camp?
I left right after my baby sister was married in March. So I left February, the last day of February, first day of March, somewhere right around there.
Okay, yes. I know after school, right after graduations of school is when we used to get our biggest platoons.
Yeah.
Because the parents was always, all right, now that you graduated, get out.
Yeah.
Don't care where you go, don't care what you do, go. So we used to get our biggest platoons were always this graduation of high school because everybody started joining the military.
I think everybody should.
Won't hurt anybody, really.
Nope.
It does you good and matures you.
Sense of pride and accomplishment and honor, even if you don't make it all the way through. You still have that pride because, as everybody knows, we're in the time of war right now.
Yeah.
People that are brave enough to put their name on that line and at least go out there and give it a shot deserve some respect.
There you go.
So
not a bad deal at all.
Yep.
Your most memorable event in boot camp?
Crying. Be honest with you, crying.
About what?
Well, I was married. I had 2 small babies at home. I had 2 little girls. And I've wanted to be a Marine my entire life. I was going to go in when I was 18, again after September 11th. Found out right after September 11th that my fiance was pregnant. And I wanted to be there for the birth of my first child.
Admirable.
Then I owned my own business, and I finally got to a point in my life where I really wanted to succeed in my goals.
All right.
So I dipped into the Marine Corps and went in, and well, when I got there, I got a bit homesick, and I'm not a big crier. I don't like crying. It shows weakness, that kind of stuff, whatever your feeling may be on it. I can count on one hand how many times I've cried in my life.
Yeah.
I tripled that my first week after Black Friday.
Really hit you hard, did it?
Really hit me hard. Couldn't see my kids, couldn't hear their voice, didn't hear them say daddy.
I guess that was one of the good things when I joined. I wasn't married and no kids. I was 20 years old, so yeah, I can understand.
It's definitely tolling on a family.
Yeah,
and
being deployed and having the kids going through that.
Yeah, and I found out when I arrived at MCRD San Diego with my phone call home. When you're supposed to call your mom, I called my wife.
Hey, you call whoever, it's your phone call. You call whoever you want, really.
Yeah. So my wife found out that she was pregnant, I guess, about a week or 2 before I left for boot camp. Didn't bother to tell me until I arrived at boot camp. So I had a lot going on.
Didn't want to stress you.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a lot going on, so I was worried. So, as any good father should be, worried about his wife and his children. And
hey, why not?
I wasn't allowed to make a phone call home to find out again. You know how it is in boot camp. You're not allowed to call home.
Yeah. After that, it's pen and paper and stamps.
Yep. And I wrote letters every day.
Yeah, we all did.
3-4 times a day. I had permission from my senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Sandoval, that I could, after lights out, write a letter to my wife and children.
Oh, really?
As long as I didn't disturb any of the other recruits. I was treated with a little bit different respect because I was the oldest person in my platoon.
Yeah, I was going to say, you came in at the age of 26?
Yep, I was the same age or a year or two younger than my senior drill instructor. My other two instructors, I was older than. So,
I went in at 20, and I was the oldest one in my platoon, and I was 20 years old.
my uncle went in when he was 21. He went in back in, was 82. Don't know too much information about him. He didn't talk about it too much.
Yeah, sometimes you get a lot of those.
Yeah. But my most memorable, I'd have to say, is crying, because it made me realize that just because I'm a man, just because I'm in the Army, I can still cry, I can still have feelings, I can still get hurt.
Yeah.
So that would have to be my most memorable experience. My second most memorable experience, the one that really, really stands out in my head, was the first time I put on our fatigues. And I seen the Eagle Globe and Anchor right over my chest. And it just kind of brought tears to my eyes. It's like, I'm here, I'm doing it, give it my all.
Yeah.
So.
It's always good. So, you have some good boot camp stories of things that you've seen, or I think we've all had some. Like I talked about one episode where we got woke up middle of the night, and I wound up doing push-ups with wound up having 5 foot lockers on my back, and I didn't know it. I was doing push-ups, and the locker went on. Then I could hear one clumping on top of it, and I'm still going. And then after the drill instructors went back to bed, they told us to clean up the mess that we created, that they told us to do. That one of the other privates said, "Are you okay? Because you had 5 lockers on your back." And I said, "Man, I didn't remember that. I just doing push-ups." So,
yeah, you don't remember too much when you're on the sweat deck. You just remember what they're telling you and screaming at you, and that your heart feels like it's about ready to pop out your throat. But let's see. Well, one of the first mornings after we were received into our platoons, having to make our beds, make our racks, square them away, the military corners. I didn't have no issues doing the military corners, making a nice tight rack, making the Tootsie Roll, putting it on the foot or anything like that. Unfortunately, it took us about 2 hours because we had a couple of guys that just didn't understand that you fold, you tuck, you tuck. I mean, it's swipe, tuck. I mean, it's not that difficult. Mine took me about 15 seconds to do. Nice tight rack, bounced a quarter. It was perfect. Guy on the top rack couldn't get it. My rack got stripped. I had to help him do his rack, then he had to help me do my rack. We had a really good group of drill instructors, though.
You had the proverbial bunch of Gomer Piles from Full Metal Jacket, right? They just couldn't. The leftover right with the laces just didn't get them right.
Yeah.
Figuring it all out.
Staff Sergeant, well, he was sergeant at the time, but he was waiting for his Staff Sergeant stripes to come in. So Sergeant Whitmore was our drill instructor, the one that's going to teach us to march and our guns and everything like that, teach us our rifles. Let's see how I can put this where it's PG-13. I remember hitting the sweat deck with him. And I got IT'd for about 15 minutes, felt like about 5 hours. But if we ever needed to make a complaint, we had to go over to the Pine and hit the Pine.
Right.
To speak to the senior drill instructors. Well, he said something that just really got underneath my skin. And in the middle of IT, I popped up, I ran over there, and I hit that Pine so hard I split it. I knocked it straight out of the iron holding it. And my hand was throbbing, and I couldn't figure out why my hand hurt. Senior drill instructor came out and said, "You broke my Pine, son." I said, "Aye, sir, I did." And that was rather interesting, because not only did I get IT'd for the breaking of the Pine, which they tell you to try and break the Pine, but then when you break it, you get in trouble for damage of government property. You know, the little hindsight. The whole entire platoon got to go down to the sand, and we all got IT'd in the sand. So that was pretty interesting.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break, get a cup of coffee, and join us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're talking to my guest, Jonathan Marcus. A couple things. You were talking about boot camp, and you were saying IT. Now, a lot of viewers don't understand what IT means.
Okay. IT is individual training.
In other words, a short, lame term is getting thrashed.
Yeah. Or, as we preferred to call it, was intensive training.
Right. And now the other one is you had to go and bang on the pine. Don't think a lot of people know what the pine is either. You broke the pine now.
What the pine is it's about a chunk of wood about 12 inches wide by, say, about 18 inches tall.
Right.
And it's about an inch, half inch to an inch thick, solid
Piece of pine wood.
pine wood.
And what's on the pine wood?
It was just finished wood.
Right. You didn't have the handprint?
Didn't have the handprint.
No,
It was
used to
just
have the
finished
yellow
wood.
handprint on it. It was a red board with the yellow handprint, and you had to hit it 3 times hard.
Oh no, see, ours was just solid. You could see little nicks in it where people had hit it and stuff's been thrown at it.
Okay. So that's what he means by the pine. You broke the board.
Yeah, I broke the board. I must have just caught it just right, but my hand still hurts from time to time from it.
All right. Well, that's what he means by IT and breaking the pine. So whenever you wanted to go to the drill instructor house, you had to bang on the door 3 times and yell, request permission to speak to the drill instructor or the senior drill instructor. So your sergeant, you said he was waiting on Staff Sergeant Sandoval.
No, Staff Sergeant Sandoval was my senior
He was
drill.
the senior.
He was the senior drill instructor.
Okay, so he already was a Staff Sergeant.
Right. My junior hat, which is the guy that teaches the platoon to march in sequence and everything like that, all of our hard lefts, singing out cadence.
Right. So now, when he got to put on his rocker, did he stay with the platoon, or did he wind up getting his own?
He didn't get his rocker until afterwards. He was waiting on it. He had already, from my understanding of it, he had already done everything he needed to be a staff sergeant. He was just waiting for a slot to open up.
The number.
Yeah.
We all had issued numbers of when you were getting promoted.
Right. He was just waiting for his number up. I'm not sure if it took place while I was in boot camp or shortly thereafter.
Okay. Because I know sometimes once you make senior or a staff sergeant, right that time you're able to be the senior drill instructor, which you wear a Corfram black belt instead of wearing the cartridge belt with the brass plate.
I actually had 2 staff sergeants that were my drill instructors, my senior and my kill hat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not uncommon though, but yeah.
Staff Sergeant Cervantes was my kill hat, and he was a really hard SOB.
Okay, once again, you're using a phrase I'm not familiar now. Define the kill hat.
The kill hat was when one recruit would mess up, the kill hat got him. We would be IT, drop give me 20, mountain climbers, sit-ups, run in place, pull-ups, leg lifts, whatever he decided he wanted to do. Sometimes it was all, sometimes it was one. Mine was always pull-ups because I couldn't do a pull-up. I couldn't break my chin on the bar. So I got to do a lot of pull-ups, and never once did I break my chin on the bar.
Jeez.
So by the time I came home, I was able to pop off right about 50 pull-ups, but not one would ever be counted. So
all right.
that was definitely, he was an interesting character.
They usually are.
Yeah.
All right. Your worst day in boot camp. I know you had well, we talked about that one incident. Your best day was putting on the uniform with the EGA. Any of your private piles get the whole platoon in trouble? Have any?
Oh yeah. Well, the day in the sand, we had a kid in the platoon. He was 18. We called him Mouse. He could not get his voice up above. You could be standing next to him. He couldn't make your eardrum ring. He could give it all he got, and it sounded like a piece of paper landing on the floor.
Really?
Yeah, he was that quiet. He was about 4 foot nothing, and he did not have big man syndrome.
Wow. No Napoleon complex there.
No, not at all. But when we were down getting IT'd in the sand, sand getting kicked up in our face from moving situations, stuff like that, I can't see no more. My eyes are burning. I got sand in my mouth, up my nose, and my ears, and places you didn't even know sand could get to, and it feels like sandpaper just tearing your flesh off. They weren't going to stop ITing us until he could sound off, till he could get loud enough. He was no longer getting IT'd. He was standing up in front of the whole platoon, watching us all get IT'd, while he had to try and sound off loud enough to, pretty much so the guy in the last row, we were 4 rows deep, could hear him sound off.
And it wasn't happening.
And it wasn't happening. We were down there for, I'd have to say, a good hour.
Really?
Yeah. And I thank God when we were able to finally shower. Because we all had so much sand just coming off of us. It was not a pretty picture.
Did he ever finally sound off? Was he ever blanket partied, or?
He accidentally tripped in the shower rooms.
Oh, he did he?
He accidentally tripped, and the soap hit him a few times. I guess it sprung out of his hand and bounced off the walls, and
really? Okay.
Got him a couple of times. And he did finally start getting a little bit louder. There was one kid that got locked in his foot locker, which was kind of interesting. Don't know how he got in there. We just woke up one morning and we were a guy short. So we checked everything, and he was locked in his foot locker.
Foot locker's not that very big of a... How big was this guy? He obviously couldn't have been very big.
No, it wasn't very big. I don't know. I'd have to say it was probably about maybe 4'2", 4'3". He was a short guy.
Obviously. Now, the Foot Locker has the little trays that go on top.
Little trays that go on top, they were shoved underneath his rack. So, I don't know if he was trying to hide from morning chow or what, but we found him in his Foot Locker. Well, the senior drill instructors found him in his Foot Locker because he started tossing Foot Lockers because he was mad. And, well, when his Foot Locker got tossed, it was a little heavier than everyone else's, so he opened it up, and there he is, still sleeping.
He was asleep in there?
He had slept in there. So someone on fire watch, which is basically late night babysitting, wasn't doing their job right. See, he somehow managed to get put into his Foot Locker. He put himself in his Foot Locker, and
or the fire watch folded him up and put him in the Foot Locker.
Or yeah,
a fire watch you do every 4 hours. And you just, like you said, it's an overpaid babysitter. You walk up and down the squad bay. You walk in the bathrooms. Make sure there's nothing doesn't go on that shouldn't go on.
Make sure there's one recruit using the head at a time, and the head's the restroom, toilet.
In a Foot Locker. That's
and,
good.
Not allowed to take any showers. Not allowed any cell phones, any electronic equipment for communications. So it was actually kind of interesting in my days in boot camp. I remember lights on in the morning, lights out at night. Lights on in the morning was very intense because you had about 30 seconds to get out of your rack, put on your uniform, and make your rack. Stand at POA, which is position of attention, and pretty much sound off that you're there.
So that was the first thing we always had to do. Lights came on, the first thing we did is we all hit the line in our skivvies, and the drill instructor would yell sound off. Then everybody had to count their box number. Wherever you were sleeping, you were given a box number. After he heard all 52 or however many was in the platoon, then he would say, you got 2 minutes to get dressed. They do it backwards now?
We got out, we got on the line, we got inspected, sounded off, and then we didn't get 2 minutes, we got 30 DI seconds, which breaks down to somewhere right around 10 to 15 seconds to put our pants on. And then once we got our pants on, we'd all sound off. Then we had another 20 DI seconds to put our blouse on.
Excuse me. This always sounds fun.
And then we'd get our blouses on. And last but not least, our covers would go in our cargo pocket on the right hip.
Cover being your hat.
Yes.
So covers your head. That's that's why we call them covers.
Covers your grape.
Right, your grape.
Your nasty grape.
Oh. How'd you ever like doing drill? Did you have trouble with it?
No, I actually picked drill up.
It's real easy to do.
I had a hard time with remembering which foot to start off with, because if you start off with the wrong foot, you screw the whole entire squat up.
Yeah.
You always start with your left.
Harris Island, they had little signs on the lawns everywhere that said left foot.
Well, there's a reason why they call out their cadence left, right, left, left, right. They're actually telling you, because
Want to get you in there.
once you get in there and you hear that cadence. I loved the mornings. I loved morning chow. Sun's coming up. You're hearing the drill instructor yelling out the cadence. You're marching to the chow hall. It is the most memorable thing, beautiful thing you'll ever see in your life. The sound of their voice echoing off of the barracks, everybody getting ready. You see all the platoons forming in formation down in front of the squad bays. It's definitely memorable. It's a sight I can't use words to explain.
Many times went down there and you'd see at least 7, 8 platoons all at one time drilling around on the grinder, all different areas of the grinder, all doing a little drill. And you hear all sorts of cadence going back and forth all around. Yeah, it was good.
I remember getting issued my service rifle. It's from Vietnam era. The thing rattled so bad, sounded like it was going to fall apart. Don't make the mistake of dropping it.
Never did.
And then you will be doing push-ups with it. You'll be sleeping with it. And I tell you what, sleeping with your rifle is not very comfortable.
Especially every time you roll over and you imagine it's going to fall out of the rack again.
Yep. And if it hits the ground again, then you'll be doing push-ups in your skivvies on the sweat deck for a good 15 minutes, holding your rifle, holding it out in front of you. I remember people not moving fast enough in the platoon and everything like that, so we had to grab our war bags and hold them out, and grab our rifle and hold it out, and just keep it straight without letting it drop or anything like that. And our war bags, mine weighed next to nothing. All it had was like change of clothes and stuff like that in, so maybe 5 pounds, maybe as much as a gallon of milk. Rifle's not too heavy.
No.
And
it's psychological.
But having to hold it there for 30 minutes, you feel a burn, you feel very uncomfortable, you're standing POA, you can't be comfortable and put your legs out of shoulder to adjust for your balance.
Right.
But everything the drill instructor's doing there's for a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
It's, the Marines are the best of the best for a reason. I'm not knocking any other branches, I'm just saying we go through a very intense training. Only those with a lot of heart are going to finish. Some of those with the amount of heart are still not going to finish due to an injury. As a matter of fact, when I got out, I left with a guy that we called Sticks. He broke his leg in third phase, which is the final phase. I still stay in contact with him. He lives over in Dangerfield, Texas.
Okay.
Call him from time to time. And he made it all the way through. He was in third phase. He was over at Pendleton doing the outback stuff, and ended up breaking his leg. And since he was in boot camp, he never got a chance to get it to heal, because just because you're broken, you still march. You just go to the back of the pack.
Yeah.
So it's definitely intense, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, a lot of brands I talk to, a lot of people that were in the Marines and get out still miss it. I know I miss it. I miss being in.
I like the sense of structure.
Yeah, I was used to that. That's what I liked, was the structure. Had a sense of being.
When I came home, the first morning I was home, my wife turned on the lights to get ready for work. I popped up out of bed. I stood POA at the end, and I was waiting for what to do next. I had a really hard adjustment when I came home, being with the kids and everything like that. I was yelling a lot. Not knowing I still do it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just talking. My kids are like, "Daddy, why are you yelling?" I'm not, I'm just talking.
Yeah,
So
I get that every now and again too.
But what other things you want to know? I mean,
We're pretty much done.
oh, really?
Jeff in there's telling me we got to wind it up. And
Oh, wow, I rambled on for that long.
You didn't ramble. You told me your story. And, like I said, Jeff's telling me in the sound booth that we got to wind it down, so that's another episode down. You have a story, I want to hear it, and I want to share it with everyone else, like Jonathan did. So you want to be on the show, give me a call at 513-2056. I thank you for being on Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Hoorah. See you next week.